Hey guys, what's up? It's Olivia. Welcome back to Olivia's Grad School Vlogs, where I like to share my experience and insight as a media psychology graduate student here at Penn State. So lately I have been getting quite a few comments and emails from people asking me why I chose to pursue studying media psychology / media effects rather than focusing on clinical psych and therapy or industrial and organizational psychology, which were programs that I did apply to for graduate school and that I had been interested in for a very long time. So that's what this video is going to be, just me kind of telling you my thought process of why I chose one over the other. I do have a video that talks about how to find an industrial and organizational psychology program, so if you have questions about that field in particular, make sure to check out that video because I probably will answer your question there. Also, I am barefaced today. I'm going to go see the Nutcracker in a little bit, but I didn't want to put on my makeup quite yet. So I'm filming this video so that there is a video this weekend, and then yeah, I'll go get ready right after it. So I'm just gonna kind of walk you through like my academic journey and what I want to study when and what changed my mind. So when I first started college, I really loved my Psych 1 course and was like, yes, this is a field I want to go into. I also thought, you know what I love about psychology is its applied nature. I would really like to work a job where I actually get to use it. So why not do therapy? So my second year of college, I got to take a class called Abnormal Psychology, which is where we learned all about the different mental disorders. So we learned about stuff that's like not so severe, like general anxiety or like certain body image issues, depression, which I know can be like intense, but compared to some of the other stuff like borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, psychopathy, bipolar, like we learned about all of those. We learned basically their DSM-5 entries, so their symptoms, age of onset, gender ratio, prevalence in the population, if there are any communities that were particularly vulnerable to this. We also learned about their different treatment plans, so that was both like if there was certain medications that were super helpful with it, or if there were certain types of therapy like desensitization for phobias or cognitive behavioral therapy, which really like changes the thought structure for things like anxiety or types of depression. Another thing in that class is we got to watch sample therapy session videos. So it was like acted out, but it's something that they use in like clinical training. And so it would be a therapist, and then we'd see someone with catatonic depression. Catatonic depression means like you literally can't move. That's what catatonic means. So these are people that are so depressed they don't get out of bed, they don't shower, brush their teeth, eat, things like that. But we also saw sample sessions with like schizoids or schizophrenics. We learned about the difference between hallucinations and delusions and different diagnostic tests that you might use to figure out what somebody has. So I really enjoyed learning about all of that stuff. It's really the typical like, oh my god, every psych major is trying to diagnose you. Like that was the class that really like brought that for me. But something that I realized, one, was that I was like, okay, if I'm going into this field, I would want to be a therapist, get my 2-year degree, my master's degree, and work with people who have more like anxiety, body image, like lighter mental health issues than say like a PsyD, which is like the clinical psychology like doctorate route, or even a PhD in psychology or psychiatry, because that's who's dealing with like schizophrenia and borderline and all that stuff that is just like way too intense. Like I would not be able to deal with that. So I was like, okay, I'll go more therapy. But then as we were like watching all the sessions, I realized that if I talk to people who are anxious and depressed all day long, I'm the type of person who would kind of take that on and internalize it, and then I would become an anxious and depressed mess. So that was during my sophomore year. I took that class and was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do therapy anymore. So I was like really freaked out, didn't know what I want to do. I was taking a social psychology course at the time that I loved. I loved that it was so applied. I loved that my professor was giving us assignments that like made sense for us to understand the concepts. I liked that she would use clips from Harry Potter and Friends and The Office to explain concepts for us so we could see how it was portrayed in everyday life or affecting our everyday life. So I thought, well, I have always, like, before college I had wanted to be a history teacher. So I was like, well, maybe I will study social psychology and teach psych like as a professor in college. But then I was kind of looking at the different areas of social psych and none of them really spoke to me. A lot of it has to do with like stigma or like group decisions. I don't know, at least the programs that I was looking at, nothing was really jumping out at me as like, oh yeah, that's a subtopic I really want to study. I just more so liked that social psych was so applied. So at that time was actually when I went down and did my Disney college program, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this, see how I like it, then I can decide more so like what I want to do in terms of graduate school. Before I had left, actually one of the girls in my research lab was accepted to a 1-year applied psychology program at USC. So I looked to applied psychology, which ended up being pretty much the same as like industrial and organizational psychology, so I'll get to that in a minute. But it was more so a program about being a consultant in large companies and I don't know, going over topics like company culture, leadership, training, and recruitment. So that was kind of in the back of my mind while I was at Disney. And while I was there, I really did notice how there is a company culture, but how every park I worked in seemed to have a different climate, and that climate really depended on the type of leadership. So empowering and encouraging leadership made it such a more relaxed and like better place to work. I felt like we could really like reach our potential, experiment with new things, etc. Whereas the parks where a manager was super like micromanaging, didn't really care about you, just cared about how many guests you saw in an hour. That was kind of a terrible workplace experience. So after that, I was like, okay, industrial and organizational psychology, that's a thing. I have some experience now working in a company, and I can definitely see how different things like leadership styles and training and recruitment is all really important. So I kind of focus now my time and energy into looking at those kinds of programs, and specifically at the time I was looking at 2-year terminal master's programs in IO Psych, and then seeing how I could work at Disney in HR or in I think it's called talent acquisition, do something like that with my degree. I was all gung-ho looking at that. So again, with the IO Psych Terminal Master's Program, you learn how to do like personnel stuff, but again, hiring, recruitment, any like leadership stuff, training in general. And then I was also really interested in employee well-being and how you could enhance that. I took an organizational communications class where I learned more about kind of like the hierarchy, in companies, but then also like the professor had been a consultant herself, so she had a lot of great insight into different things that you kind of look at when you're trying to help a company build and grow. Now, one of the things I had also wanted to do when I was younger was own my own business. I was really into like entrepreneurship, and I had planned on taking classes of that in college, but I don't think Davis had any of that. I was like, okay, this kind of gets back to where I want to do entrepreneurial stuff. I could help in this consultant role. At the time, I also noticed that IO Psych had PhD programs as well, and some PhD programs were very much, we're going to train you to do research and academia, and all you can do is academia. But then other ones followed something called the science practitioner model, and again, check out my IO video if you want to know more about this. But for that one, they had equal weight on both like the research and academia, but then also training you to be a consultant if you wanted to after you graduate. The thing was, with the Terminal Master's Program, all of the classes were applied and directly related to what you would be doing, whereas in the PhD programs, most of the courses were statistics, and then like maybe once a semester you had something that related to the field. So the summer before my last quarter of college, I actually did get to go see several schools. Unfortunately, schools that on their website was like, yes, we follow this model. We want you to be able to both go into industry or academia. From the students' perspective, they were like, yeah, they're actually really reluctant to get us internship opportunities. So I was like, ooh, I don't like that. But the girl I was talking to was like, yeah, but we have all these statistics courses, and like I love it, and I love statistics, so like it's kind of okay, but I do wish there were more opportunities for XYZ. And I was like, ooh, statistics, like it's fine and I take it because I have to, but I'm more so interested in like taking the classes I'm actually interested that I can apply and whatever. So again, at this point I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. So I plan on applying to programs that were PhD programs in IO Psych, because it still kind of was interesting to me, like the employee well-being and all of that. So apply to that. If I stop after 2 years, end with a master's, go work for a little bit, that's fine, I'll do that. Or at the worst case scenario, I get a PhD and then I can go and teach it if I want, or I can go the industry route. So I don't know, as I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't think I'm really cut out for like industry. I hate business professional clothing. I even hate business casual clothing. Like, I don't like having a set schedule, like 8 to 5. That's a nightmare for me. And also with those jobs, you know, it wouldn't just be an 8 to 5. You would be taking work home. You would have to be doing a lot of stuff like over the weekends. So I was kind of iffy about it, but I was also like, well, I'm graduating and I don't feel prepared to go do anything. So I might as well apply to these programs and like, I'll make it work. I'll make myself be super interested in it. Cause I did find it interesting, but I was just unsure if I wanted to do that forever. So I did apply to IO programs, but then my last quarter at Davis, I took a class called Media Effects in the communications department. And I loved it. Basically, we were just applying different psychology theories and concepts that I had already learned about in media settings. So I'd already learned about personality development in adolescents and like all the changes their brain is going through at that time. But now we were applying, okay, so how does this kind of media, how does it affect teens differently who are going through all of these changes versus how it would affect an adult, or how would it affect children? We also, how the class was set up, we had like a different topic each week. So we learned about things like fear in media, like scary movies. We learned about like video game violence, body image, and like Instagram. We also learned about social media and mental health and well-being, which, as you can tell, that was what I was most interested in, as well as like children's television programming and how like a bunch of jump cuts affects them differently than say like a Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where like you're following him like in real time for everything. There's not just jump cuts to the next thing. So I found it really interesting, and one day I was reading an article and it was from a journal called Media Psychology, and I was like, what is this? Of all of the research that I've done looking at different psychology programs for graduate school, I've seen clinical psych, IO psych, social psych, but I've never seen media psychology. So I talked to my professor about it and he was like, yes, it's a thing. Here are some programs you should check out if you're interested in that. And so very last minute, I applied to a couple of media effects programs in communications colleges. Anyway, I just really liked the thought of like, I can apply everything that I love about psych, all these theories and terms that I know, all this training that I've had, with that applied aspect that I really loved about social psych, but now using media. Which, when I looked at my papers from college, I realized I was applying everything to media anyway. But once it came down to it, I got invited to some open houses for IO and then for also Media Psych. And I don't know, I just realized that I really liked the Media Psych route better. I just found it a lot more interesting. Like, yes, I think if I had to, I could find like training and well-being and things like that interesting, but I don't know, that's really the main thing, the media stuff. Like, I've created YouTube videos since May of 2014. Like, kind of makes sense that that's the route that I would take. And then with this, I knew that after a master's, I could go into like advertising and marketing and things like that, or like public relations. It never hurts just to have more training in writing and research skills. Companies do like it if you can, you know, run statistical analyses on things. So yeah, I was like, I'll do this, and then if I do end up getting a PhD, then I can be a psychology professor. I could still get like that teaching thing, but now do it with something that I found really, really interesting. Another thing that I really love about studying media, especially like, yeah, media psychology, is like, in one of my papers in undergrad, I literally started off the paper with lyrics from a One Direction song. And I talked about how it influences adolescent self-esteem. Or like my thesis is on a video that I saw from a fitness influencer that I already follow. My friend and I are currently doing one of our final projects on MTV show's Catfish. So like, I don't know, I think it's really interesting how I can take things that I already love and then just apply psychology to it, which I also love, and it's like a presentable like paper and research. And they're like, yes, you're contributing to the field. Me, I think my main route is I want to be a professor, I want to be a teacher. I would prefer to be at like a teaching focused university. Also being a professor, I will have a more flexible schedule than like a corporate side, IO 8 to 5, which no isn't 8 to 5. I think I already said that. But like my main like dream in life is to be a wife and a mother. So I think being a professor would give me like those flexible hours and the opportunity to also have that. And then, yeah, I think I would also have time to write my books on popular psychology. Anyway, that's why I chose the route that I did. If you have any questions about it, feel free to leave a comment down below and I will get back to you. But yeah, basically I just found Media Psych to be the most interesting thing, and I do want to be a professor. I do want to teach that stuff. That's why I chose Media Psych. Let me know what field you work in the comments below. Battery's flashing, so we're gonna end now. You guys have a wonderful day. Keep dreaming out loud, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.